Let's make some noise. You're kicking it with Verve Radio.
Hi Jesse, welcome to Verve Radio. Thanks for coming in today.
Pleasure.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a writer, director, and producer, working both in fiction and documentary. I originally from Miami, Florida, but I've been living in London for about 16 years. And I kind of started with short films and then moved into documentaries and then made my first feature a couple years ago. It's called Calloused Hands, and it stars Andre Royo from The Wire. And it kind of did its festival run, then picked up for distribution. So on to number 2, which is, as anybody that makes films know, it's a big mountain to climb, but you know, that's the beauty of the beauty of the beast.
Of course. So do you think short films are a good way into the industry then?
Yeah, I do. I guess like I have a different, there's sort of different schools of thought, and some people think like, oh, you should make like 10 or 20 shorts. For me, I wanted to get into features as quickly as possible because I felt like, firstly, it's the same with like prose. You know, I've never been that much into short stories. I've always loved the way, reading a novel. So I think it's just my preference is to kind of see a story that has a big arc to it and a kind of big journey. And so for me, really as soon as I could, I made a few shorts and documentaries, lots of documentaries, but as soon as I could, I wanted to get into feature film making because I felt I wanted to explore the challenge of trying to tell something over 90 minutes. And also I just feel, and especially having done one now, they're very different worlds, it's great, shorts are great practice, but I feel like with features, you're dealing with how to finance, how to package a film, dealing with sales agents, distributors, and I guess the business side of it, because realistically it's tough to make a living doing shorts. So I think it's a good practice, but if you're looking at the business side of it, it's feature filmmaking. So I always felt like, even if I had like, I don't know, 20, 30 grand or whatever, however much, I'd probably try to see if I could make a feature out of that rather than a short.
Okay.
It's like a super, super low budget feature, just because I think then you kind of start the dialogue with the people that are in that feature world. Because I think that's something I didn't realize before is that they're kind of separate in a way.
So Calloused Hands, that was your first feature, and it was massively successful. You got awards and...
I would say moderately successful.
Okay.
It's relative. It's relative. Yeah, I mean, it definitely did good things for me. I called that a micro budget feature that was made for like $250,000, maybe a bit less. But yeah, I mean, it definitely helped my career and hopefully some of the careers of other people that worked on it. Playing at festivals was a great experience. Winning some awards was helped, and I think more than anything, that was like, I studied film, but that was like my film school. Just dealing with the pressure of having to manage a budget, having to make a film with very tiny few resources. And, we had to shoot that in 18 days. And so we're working 14, 16-hour days. And there's sort of no better film school than to actually just go in and have to deal with the grind of 3 6-day weeks and dealing with all the logistical challenges, because also I shot it in Miami, but I live in London. So I had to do all the prep from Skype and then go over there and deal with, trying to find the locations, trying to get all the resources. I try to spend as little money as possible on everything, and yet still try to get good performances from the actors and hopefully make a film that was emotionally engaging.
How do you go about budgeting your first feature? Because obviously there's people trusting you with money, assumingly, or obviously you can go through crowdfunding and things, but yeah. Do you look to the locations you're at?
I try to do it for as little as possible, and so I try to spend no money. That was the plan.
Good trick.
Yeah, but for instance, with locations, what I did was I shot. It's sort of the film's loosely based on my life, so I went to the locations that I grew up in, and I went to the synagogue that I had by my bar mitzvah in, because the stories about this kid who's sort of it's like a coming of age story about this kid who was basically bribed into doing his bar mitzvah by his grandfather in order to help out his situation. It's a very super condensed synopsis of it. But when I went to Miami, I would go to the synagogue. I had my bar mitzvah and asked them, can we just shoot? And they said yes, and then go to try to work out little deals. Like for instance, rather than So we paid a little tiny fee because there's a good section of the film shot in the diner, and so in order to use the diner, they wanted us to pay for something. So we basically used them for the catering. So they catered the film. We ate from them. It wasn't the best food in the world, but they took care of us, and we didn't pay for a location. So just working little deals like that, and on every level there was little deals that you could kind of make to save. And for me, anywhere I could shave money off, I would shave it. So I think that's a thing that maybe gets overlooked sometimes, the business side of it. Because we are in filmmaking, we're probably in the most expensive artistic medium. And I think it does benefit you to have a business mind, and I enjoy the producing side of things anyway, dealing with having to explore how you raise finance and, looking at distribution. I did it out of necessity, but I've learned to enjoy it. And I actually enjoy it as much as the other strands of filmmaking, the writing, directing. I think producing has its own kind of reward to it.
Okay. So Calloused Hands, you've done that. Happy.
Yeah.
You moved on
Sort of
next.
happy.
Yeah. I'd have been happy. I think from what I've read about how it's done, you can't go wrong really for a first.
You always watch, things. You watch it. I watch it now. It's 3 years ago, and I think, I could have shaved off about 10 minutes. I look at it, and there's about 10 minutes that could go. But yeah.
Next steps. What did you do after Calloused Hands? What was your intentions?
I think the thing is, there's a little thing where you make your first feature and you kind of want to dive in and make your next one. And so I made the film, and right off of that, I got an agent, and then, I was doing all the meetings and everything. And my hope was that I could go and write off, and you kind of sometimes you look at people's IMDb and you're like, why is there 3 or 4 years between every film? Surely it would be quicker than that. But it takes time. Calloused Hands alone I had the idea to make it when I was about 19. I made it when I was 31. So I think it takes time just to kind of get a script right. And I've sort of discovered about myself that, I think it takes time for me to write a script, to kind of get it the way it feels right, and I've become really attracted to the idea of like co-writing and collaborating and things like that. So, I think it's definitely opened up a lot of doors in many ways, and just sort of other opportunities, and collaborations and things like that. Since then I've kind of done some documentaries and things. I think it's just getting your first feature under your belt. It's that for me was a big goal for me. I just to prove to myself that I could do it. I think making a bad film is even an achievement, to be honest. So
what projects are you working on at the moment?
So I'm working on I have a production company. It's called Woolfcub, and we have 2 feature films sort of in development. One is sort of further along. It's called Cagefighter, and it's about this mixed martial artist who sort of starts to suffer from panic attacks and anxiety after he kills a man in a fight. And sort of loosely based on a few real events. One of them is the Chris Eubanks' son. I don't know if you've heard about that, where his son nearly killed a guy, put a guy in a coma. And this other one...
Was that within the last year?
Yeah, a few months
I
ago.
think I remember seeing it.
Yeah, and where the guy basically had to crack his skull open to create...
Of course, yeah, he's in coma. I do remember now. Yeah.
And then there was another one in Brazil where the guy actually died. So the story sort of is loosely based on those events, but it's fiction. And I also train martial arts. I've been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for like 8 years, so it's a big passion for me. So yeah, I'm working on that, and we have a couple of great actors on board. Noel Clarke from the Brotherhood films, and Andre Royo, who's in my first film. And so I've been working on that script for about, feels like too long, like 2 years. And it's very close. I think it's ready, and we're talking to distributors and sales agents. We're kind of trying to close in on the finance, so it's looking good. And then another project, much earlier stages, is sort of I call it a love story. It's about an Irish woman that goes to Cuba on holiday and falls madly in love with this Cuban playboy, and brings him back to Dublin, and they have a sort of 2 worlds meeting. And for that one, I have a working relationship. I've kind of collaborated a bit with Carlos Acosta, the Cuban ballet dancer, and he's on board for that. So that's earlier stages, but those are the 2 main things. And then we just finished the documentary. It's called Shoe Shiners. It's about these Bolivian lustrabotas. They shine shoes. That's something I've been working on for years. That just came out. It got picked up by Journeyman Pictures, which is a distribution company dealing a lot with human rights type documentaries, and that was funded by National Geographic and Channel 4, and yeah, that was really nice to kind of put out there. That was directed by a woman called Anne-Marie Goodwin, so I was the producer on that, and we put that out through Woolfcub Productions. And then, you know, other bits of documentaries, and you know, I'm also attracted to producing other things, so there's a few projects that I'm not even directing or writing, I'm just producing, and you know, just I'm very excited to kind of work with younger directors and see how I might be able to facilitate or assist in that way. So, you know, probably spread too thin, but I like staying busy, you know.
Busy, I think, is a bit of an understatement. That's mad. You're like juggling a lot. Plus, you're teaching as well full time, aren't you?
No, not like 3/4, something like that. Yeah. So I lecture. Yeah, I lecture on the BA film production at London Met, and also the film studies. Yeah. And I also do a bit of lecturing at Met Film School. I kind of teach on their BA and MA programs there as well. So yeah. Yeah, no, I am busy.
So among all of this, what would you say is your highlight so far?
I think probably, okay, one of them was, you know, with Calloused Hands, it's done, you know, that for me, just finishing it was a highlight, and it had some nice moments. It was #1 Critics' Choice in the Metro a couple years ago, which was quite exciting, and last year it won Best Director and Best Feature Film at the British Urban Film Festival. And since then, I've been made a patron of the British Urban Film Festival, which is really nice. You know, it's a festival doing really exciting things, and they're starting to build really nice links with Channel 4, London Live. And, you know, part of my role with that is to sort of identify exciting filmmakers and directors, you know, that have work that might be placed in the festival. And so I'm very excited by that, and just...
I actually read about that in the newsletter today.
Okay, cool.
It's making its rounds.
Didn't know that. So yeah, that just you know, I think probably for me, Calloused Hands was the big one, and yeah, just everything that's come from that. Yeah.
Amazing. Any advice, young filmmakers? What would be your like go-to piece of advice?
I would say just to embrace the practical side of the whole thing, not just the technical, when I say practical, like obviously the equipment and everything, but also the nuts and bolts of how the business works. I think sometimes, you know, when you're young, and I was guilty of this myself, you get a bit idealistic, and you're like, oh, I want to be the next Tarkovsky or whatever. And I think, you know, everyone has to make a living, everyone has to kind of pay the bills, and I think, you know, the sooner you can kind of embrace that and look at that and kind of understand that it is a very competitive industry, but it can also be incredibly rewarding. So, you know, just to kind of have a producer's hat on. I think even if you don't want to be a producer, understand how money works, understand what you need in order to raise the money and things like that. That would be something that I would have liked to have embraced maybe sooner in my career, but I'm fully embracing it now, you know. Yeah.
Online, where can we find you? Website, social media?
So yeah, online, my website, the production company is Woolfcub, it's WOOLFCUB.co.uk, and then I have my own website, which is my name, jessequinones.com, and then on Twitter, I'm jessequinones81, and I don't do Instagram. I haven't got that. I'm not that cool. And then what else am I on? I think those are the main things. Yeah, my website and the Twitter. Yeah. And
then you can probably find everything through your website anyway.
Yeah. I keep them both pretty up to date, so they have all the projects. We're kind of building a slate right now of projects. All of the projects are on there, and then my own website has some of the things that I'm doing that are not maybe on the Woolfcub site. Like there's one thing I'm doing I'm directing that's with a company called Film Mode. It's a short documentary. Which we actually did as a pilot for Channel 4. It doesn't look like it's going to be for Channel 4 anymore, but they gave us some money to make the pilot, and that's sort of about this Cagefighter that also likes to dress as a clown. It's really interesting. Yeah, so that's
two scary thoughts.
He's what would they call him? The scariest clown in Britain. That's his title. So that's with a producer called Tristan Anderson. Very talented producer and director in his own right, and he runs a company called Film Mode. He's a BAFTA winner, and so I'm in post-production on it. It's a short film, but you know, I think it's nice to kind of be working on something where I don't have to produce, and I can
less pressure for you.
Leave that side of things to him and go in and be more on the creative side of things.
Great. Oh, yeah, well, thank you for coming down to the station today.
Pleasure.
It's been great speaking with you.
Likewise. Thank you.